Welcome, everyone. My name is Tony Wheeler. I'm a professor here at Westchester University, and I will be teaching your MBA 604 class for the semester. So this class is titled Components of Effective Leadership. And as you can see, this talk today, I'm going to be basing somewhat off of chapter 1 in the organizational behavior text. And actually, there's a link to it there that you can see highlighted and underlined in gold. And what you do is if you're in presentation mode in your PowerPoint, you can actually make that link live. So if you're following along and you want to do that, feel free to do so. If not, you can find the OB text in the syllabus, which has been posted in D2L. So let's get started today. The reason why we're going to have this kind of intro discussion, this intro presentation, is really to give you guys a better understanding of how I'm going to approach the class, what I hope you will get out of the class, and to give you a feel for the rest of how the semester will go from here. And so I'm kind of big about setting expectations, and as you'll see as you get along further in your own professional development, the more clearly we can set people's expectations as managers, the more effective we are at managing. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do some introductions, a little bit about me, and give you guys an opportunity in the discussion room to maybe give a little bit of information about yourself, to maybe create a little bit of a community for this class with the hopes that you all can learn from each other and develop some professional networking opportunities. You never know where those might lead. So we'll do some introductions. We'll then do a brief overview of what this entire course is about. I'm going to go over the syllabus. We'll briefly talk about D2L. If you're in this program, then you probably are quite familiar with D2L. If this is your first class, you probably have gotten a little bit of training in D2L, but I'll at least show you where it is and how to get there. Then I want to talk a little bit about what organizational behavior is. And the reason why I'm talking about organizational behavior today is that leadership falls under what we would call organizational behavior. And we use human resource management as managers to kind of pull some levers on people's behaviors to maybe get some more desirable outcomes for employees, for supervisors, for the organization, and so on. And then what I want to do is, you see I've got some supplemental assigned readings here, evidence-based management. If you click on that link, again, if you're in presentation mode and PowerPoint, you can get that to link to be active. What that will do is it will take you to Westchester's library, where you can find a full text copy of evidence-based management. The same thing for the second one there, the surprising economics of a people business. Again, click on those links. It'll take you right to Westchester's library. You will then have to enter your credentials, and you can then get full access to those videos. Because of copyright reasons, I can't just post them on D2L. So that's where we're going to end up today before we then get into the next set of videos for the remainder of the course. So first, if you guys feel comfortable doing this, and this would be helpful, I think for people in the class to get to know each other a little bit is, to the extent you feel comfortable doing this, giving your name, maybe where you are, and what your work experience is, and, what are you kind of interested in? What are some things about people, about human behaviors inside of organizations that you find interesting? So for example, my name's Tony. I originally grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, but I've kind of gone around the country at this point, and I've been here at Westchester for about 2 years. Prior to entering academia, I was in the field of management consulting, change management consulting, human resource management consulting. And the things about human behavior, again, this is my entire career, I guess, has been studying human behavior, but I think what I'm most known for in terms of my research are things like turnover and retention behaviors. So why do people stay inside organizations, and why do they leave? What I'm going to do for you all as well is I'm going to post a brief bio about me so you can get a better sense of who I am and my expertise and some of my experiences. So in D2L, we'll have a discussion up there where if you guys want to sort of get a little information, give a little information about yourself, maybe start a discussion about what you're interested in, that'd be great. So let's kind of talk about what's happening in in this course? Why are you taking this course? And, what we know is that managers are going to spend the vast majority of their day actually managing employee behaviors. What managers do is they spend quite a bit of time working with other people, trying to increase performance, trying to make sure retention is there, trying to make sure employees are engaged, trying to make sure employees are satisfied and committed. Those are all the kinds of attitudes and behaviors that we're going to talk about in this class. So as a manager, your job is actually dealing with people. So where this course fits in your program of study is that it's a required course for you all. So everyone coming through the MBA program here will eventually end up taking this class. So we think it's kind of important for you all to have. And what's interesting about anyone who's in an MBA program is at this point in your life, you have all been employees. You have all worked inside of organizations, maybe starting when you were a teenager, working in the summers, or when you were doing your undergraduate degree, working while you were finishing your degree. Now that you're done with your undergraduate degree, you are out working in whatever your profession is, but you have experience in organizational behaviors. You have seen good leaders, you've seen effective leadership, you've seen ineffective leadership. So those are things that we're going to be talking quite a bit about, especially in the discussion boards and in what I'm going to call reflection papers. When we get to assignments, you'll see what I'm talking about there. But what you all will see is that you will rely quite a bit upon your own experiences and trying to understand what we're doing in this class and what you're learning in class. So your own experiences are going to ground your education in this course. And really with any kind of learning experience, whether it's an academic learning experience or whether it's at work, you're going to get out of this course what you put into it. If you just want to, kind of follow along and do the readings and, just have some basic comments here or there, that's what you'll do. And you may not get as much out of the class as if you put more effort and more engagement into the class. I guarantee you, the more you put into this class, the more you're going to get out of it. What a lot of students get frustrated with, especially in MBA courses, is that they think that they're just getting a lot of textbook information. And so what they really want is they want practical information. And what I try to do in this class is to ground some of that textbook material into actual practice. So we'll talk more about why the textbook information, why the supplemental readings are important. But ultimately, as professionals, you all want to know how to take this information you've learned and how to get something out of it so you can improve your own performance. You can improve the performance of those around you so you can be a better manager and advance your own professional development. And that's what we're going to try and do out of this class. A couple of things here to give you an idea of my own views of education. I was gratified to be able to answer promptly, and I did. I said that I did not know. And this is from Mark Twain. Mark Twain always has great quotes. But I find this quote really insightful for me is because as an educator, sometimes I think we give the impression to our students that we know everything. And if we don't know everything, we're going to kind of act like we know everything. But here I am telling you that, I don't know everything. But what I will tell you that I can do absolutely is if you have a question, if I don't know the answer to it, I'm going to find a good answer for you. So my job is not to sit here and act like I'm the end all and be all of all organizational behavior, all leadership, all human resource management, fields. But I am pretty good at problem solving. And so if I don't know an answer right away, send me a message, start a thread in discussion, and I can get you the information you know. And another thing, and we're going to get into this kind of later in today's presentation, is my overall view of evidence. A lot of times we think that a field like management is really more art and not science. But what we're going to learn in this class is that there's quite a bit of science. We have quite a bit of evidence. We have quite a few facts that we can tell you about how humans behave in work situations. And while we might have our own opinions, there are going to be a shared set of facts that we're going to operate from. And so in discussions, when we talk, if we have an email exchange, I love hearing people's opinions, and I'm going to give my own opinion at times, and I'll tell you when it's my opinion because sometimes the evidence is not always clear, but I'm going to try very hard to present you with the evidence about what we know about some of the topics that we're going to discuss over these next few weeks of this course. Because facts are indeed stubborn things. And I think sometimes that's hard. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics in here. You all will have read about some of these topics. You'll have opinions. You'll have supervisors, people inside your company that talk about their opinions as though they are facts. And I might challenge some of those opinions in this class. So as we go along, the discussion is what's important, and trying to come to that common understanding of there are facts out there about the topics we're going to discuss in this class. So that's my background. That's my philosophy when it comes to teaching these courses. So I'm going to pull up the syllabus here. And again, it's posted, but I think it's important for everyone to kind of go through the syllabus. So here, my name is Anthony Wheeler. Please feel free to call me Tony. As you see, I've got a PhD. I've been around quite a bit. And again, I'll post some information about me in D2L so you can get a little better understanding. In terms of contact information, the best way to get hold of me is by email. I'm happy to talk by phone, but it's probably best if we kind of establish some contact first via email. And that way we can set up a time that we're both free to have a phone discussion. Same thing in person. If you're in the area and you want to come visit on campus, or if you want to meet up for coffee somewhere to have an informal office hours, over a coffee or a tea, again, happy to do that, even in a group. But first, I'd ask that you send me an email, and that way we can set something up. And you see, these are the dates. This will change. Some of you are taking a class at a later time, but this is all being done through D2L. All these things are going to be posted online. You all will be accessing these videos through D2L. I do have a standard set of office hours. I'm going to call them virtual Wednesdays, 12 to 3, but you can always have an appointment with me anytime by setting up through an email. But every Wednesday, 12 to 3, I will be sitting, at my desk with my email open, with D2L open. You can always reach me then. If that time doesn't work for you, again, just drop me an email, set up a time to talk. Here you see in the syllabus, there are links to the textbooks. The 2 textbooks we're using are open access textbooks, meaning that they are free to you. Again, these textbooks are probably not going to provide a ton of depth that you might get from a typical textbook, but my goal is, again, to give you a baseline of information. These presentations are going to supplement the information for you, and then we're going to have discussions, and that's how we're going to build knowledge. So I will also post supplemental readings. They'll be linked to in D2L or in the class PowerPoint slides, as you've already seen. Here's a description of the course, but here are some kind of key objectives. Understand the principles necessary to be an effective leader. Discuss the principles of ethical behavior, including how to establish this inside of organizations. Demonstrate understanding of team dynamics. Demonstrate skillful business communication. So here's some information just about College of Business and Public Management at Westchester. Feel free to go through that. Again, these are goals and objectives for the MBA program in general and how the goals will be assessed. Some of the information you learn in this course, you will actually end up being assessed on through direct measurements, that ETS exam assessment. But also we do some exit surveying of you when you're done with your courses and with your MBA in general, to get more information about how well we are delivering knowledge to you all, so that you all walk out of here with a degree of value. It's part of our accreditation standards. Prerequisites, majors only, of course. Here you see the grading scale. One of the things I want you all to focus on is that really, if you focus on the process of this course, the grade will take care of itself. and actually something that we're going to spend quite a bit of time discussing and learning about through this course, is that if we focus on the individual steps in anything we do and mastering the individual steps, then the final outcome is going to kind of happen. And so that's one of the things I will focus on here. So, I know we're all interested in grades, and we need to make sure that we maintain certain grades, especially if we're using tuition reimbursement from our work. What I want you to focus on is the process that we're going to go through. And if you focus on the process, I guarantee that your grade will be perfectly fine. We don't have many graded components in this class. What we are going to have, and you're going to see here in a minute what I mean by reflection papers, you're going to have 2 of them due, and we have a schedule in a couple pages down here. We're going to have a video recap and then the discussion threads. So everything will be submitted through D2L, but here are what the reflection papers are, and you'll see when I want them due. The reflection papers allow you to take what you've learned in your work experiences and apply them to what you're learning here in class. So in the reflection papers, I want you to detail a concept that you've learned through this course that you're interested in, and I want you to explain how your experiences relate to that concept. What, when, how, and why. If you can explain what, when, how, and why for anything, chances are you're going to be doing pretty well in anything you do. So I don't want you just to write about your work experiences, but I want you to talk about how something you've learned in this class is applying directly to your work experiences. And I do want to say, of course, everything's confidential. Sometimes you'll write about maybe some negative things that you see at work, and you might be worried about that information getting loose. It won't. It stays in the class. It stays with me. I absolutely keep confidentiality in this course. So this is a safe place for you to think through what you experience at work and apply what you're learning here in class, and melding those 2 things together. So the reflection papers, 3 to 4 pages, double space max. I'll upload them, I'll read through them, give you guys grades, pretty quickly. I turn those around pretty quickly. The assignments, as you'll see, they're going to be due at the end of the week on the schedule below. End of the week, let's say it's Saturday, 11:59 p.m., right? So you can turn these in on the Saturday, up until the Saturday. You can turn them in early, but up until the Saturday that they're due. And then I'll turn those around and grade them, within a day or 2. What I then also want you to do, and this will be due the last week of class, is I want you all to do a video recap. So I want you to complete 2-minute max recap at the end of the semester that summarizes 5 major topics that you found important to your current job or career development. So at the end of this course, I want you to be able to definitively put down, these are the 5 things I took away from this class. This is what they are. This is how I think this applies to my career development, my work experience. This is when I found that this is important or will be important for me, and this is why it's important to me. 2 minutes. You can have, if you don't want to appear on a video, I understand. You can upload a video where you're visible, or you can upload just a sound, the sound file, an audio file to D2L. So we'll work through that. If there's any problems, of course, we'll figure it out, and we'll figure out a way for you to complete this. So it'll be due the last week of class, the last Saturday. You upload it on D2L. If you have any questions about that, definitely get hold of me. Post it in the discussion thread. You won't be the only one with a question. We can work through it. And then class discussion, 10% of your grade based on class discussion. That's happening, every week. The goal is for you guys to, talk to each other, to ask questions, to think, to critically think. Critical thinking is the one skill that every employer says they need more of. This class is designed to enhance your critical thinking skills. So the goal of discussion is for you to think through the implications of what you've learned, while also contributing to the overall learning environment of this class. Your fellow classmates can be valuable learning resources, and students are encouraged to interact with each other by asking professional and class-related questions. That's very, very important. These discussion threads are not for your own personal you know, private discussions. These are about the class and about your professional development. It's something I will take very seriously, and I want you to respect everyone in terms of professionalism and sticking to class-related topics. So here's our schedule. Week 1, this is the class background. I'll post these PowerPoint slides as well. This will get uploaded and transcribed if anyone has visual impairment needs. That way closed captioning can be enabled, and there's always going to be discussion threads. The next video you'll see are the basics of employee organizational behaviors. We're going to talk about individual differences and emotions. And there is the sort of outline that we're going to have. You there can see that when the reflection papers are due, when the video recap is due. And again, those will be posted, the due dates will be posted on D2L. So you'll have those deadlines, you'll have announcements, you'll have reminders. One of the things I'm big on is no surprises. I don't want you guys worrying about when something's due. You will have plenty of reminders. Focus on the learning process. The rest of this will take care of itself. Here we are at Westchester. We value diversity and inclusive learning environments. If you have any questions about diversity, if you find that there are issues, there's a link to our diversity or social equity office. It's something that I take very seriously. I also take very seriously things like academic integrity. There are plenty of resources to understand what we mean by academic integrity here at the university. I am also committed to ensuring that anyone who has a disability that may prevent that student from fully engaging in the learning process, to help accommodate any needs. Although I do want to make clear that accommodations cannot be granted retroactively. If you have a disability that needs accommodation, you need to absolutely contact Westchester's Services for Students with Disability, and we can come to an accommodation for that. Standard stuff here on late work. I want you guys engaging in the class process. Each week we've got 7 weeks, 35 contact hours technically for a 7-week class. So, you're looking at 5 hours a week of activities, of doing something here with this class. And I do not accept late work unless there's something really, really going on. If you know ahead of time, best advice to you all, get hold of me as soon as you can. It's always easier to address something before you miss an assignment or you miss a week of class. Get to me beforehand, we can figure something out. We have the course withdrawal policy. One thing also with electronic email, everything's going through your university provided email accounts. That has to happen. That is a legal issue. There are FERPA legal requirements surrounding that. So any communication gets sent from me to you through your Westchester email account. That means you must check your Westchester email account. If you email me from a non-Westchester account, there are also questions about establishing who you are and those things. So email me from your Westchester account. I'll be emailing you from mine to yours. Required technology, got to be on D2L. You've got to make sure you've got access to the internet. All of those things pretty much spelled out here. Of course, we support PC and Mac. Got to make sure you've got sound. You'll see there is a video that I linked to called The Fog of War. It's one of those things during the week of leadership that I want you guys watching because we're going to discuss it. It's going to be kind of the jump point for our talk on leadership. So here's all the information you need. If you have any questions, absolutely make sure you contact me. The last couple of things here is, we'll navigate D2L, we'll do those things. There's videos that the university supports, but also, we very seriously take reports of sexual violence and harassment seriously. If you have experienced or witnessed any incidences that make anyone feel uncomfortable, please contact the university's Office for Civil Rights. The university's Title IX coordinator is Lynn Klingensmith. She's wonderful. Please make sure if you have any issues, that you reach out and get in touch. So from there, let's get out of this. Let's go back to our PowerPoint here. Let's go into D2L. I'm operating in Chrome here. You can operate in kind of whatever you want. But here in the university's main webpage, you see D2L. You log in with your credentials, and you can start navigating from there. I'm not going to spend too much time navigating because the university supplies tutorials, but I wanted to at least tell you guys where to find it. Right here on the university's main webpage. Easy enough to access. So let's also now start talking about roles. And this is something that in the discussion section, I'm going to flush out a little bit more about what you expect from me, what I expect from you. Obviously, timeliness is important. Obviously, me responding to emails within 12 to 24 hours is obviously an expectation. Of course, I will respond sooner. I will also be checking the discussion boards every day, multiple times a day, just to make sure that I can help engage the conversation more, make the conversation richer, ask different questions, and really to make those discussions more robust. But I think you all might have expectations about me, and those are things that I'm going to be interested in hearing. So as part of the kind of intro discussions that you'll see on our D2All class site, you're going to see a discussion about, expectations and what I might expect from you and what you might expect from me. I think it's an important jump-off point for any learning relationship that we establish. So, having said all that, now let's talk about what organizational behavior actually is. What is organizational behavior? Organizational behavior studies the influences that individuals, groups, and structures have on behavior within organizations. And that structure piece is interesting because organizations have policies and procedures and practices. Those are structures that influence behavior. So it's not just your own behavior or the behavior of your coworkers or your groups, but also about the structures. And what's really kind of interesting is that a lot of people who think that management is about gut instincts, that people skills are really about gut instincts. Well, what do we really know about people? It turns out we know quite a bit. And there's going to be lots of times in this class over this semester where I might challenge some conventional wisdom that you might have. And so are people skills just innate? Can we develop people skills? You might be surprised. We can, but it also turns out that some people might in fact be kind of born with a greater ability for dealing with other people. But that's not to say that no one can develop people skills. They absolutely can. And the other thing I want to talk about is gut instinct. When we talk about a gut instinct, what is a gut instinct? What do we mean by a gut instinct? And is your gut instinct always right? Now, in terms of understanding people and behaviors and how organizations use their systems like HR systems to influence employee behavior, my gut instincts about human behavior are probably more developed than most. But how often are my gut instincts correct about human behavior? Maybe 50-50. And so one of the big goals that I have for this class, again, is to kind of help you all understand that there's science and that there's evidence about best practices to help people do their jobs better. And the more that we rely on that kind of evidence and understand that there's always more evidence to be gathered, that we'll get better at this, then the better off we're going to be. So kind of right off the bat, your gut instinct may or may not be something that we should be operating out of. What you're going to get a lot of in this class, we're going to talk a lot about more theories from a lot of different disciplines: organizational behavior and human resource management, leadership. These things are multidisciplinary. So There's going to be some stuff from communications, some stuff from economics, some stuff from psychology, from sociology, from management itself. And a lot of it are couched in theory. What does theory do? Theory explains what, when, how, and why. So if you want to understand why someone's behaving in a certain way, a theory can explain what, when, how, and why that person is behaving the way they're behaving. Now, unfortunately, you're going to get a lot of theories in this class because there's no one meta theory for human behavior. Humans are complex. Organizations are complex. And so understanding how people behave inside of complex organizations when their behavior itself is complex means that we've got lots of different theories to explain kind of small parts of what's happening inside of an organization. So think of these theories as tools inside of your toolkit. And the better you understand these theories, the better off you'll be when you're at work and you experience a specific situation. You can open up your own toolkit and have a little understanding of why someone is behaving the way they're behaving. The other thing I want to emphasize too is that correlation does not equal causality. We're going to spend some time in later classes talking about statistics. We're going to talk about correlations, but basic statistics, correlation tells you how two variables relate to each other. A relates to B, B relates to A, or there might be some third variable C that's relating to both A and B. So correlation does not mean causality. It just means that variables are related. And you'll hear me being very careful about that language throughout this semester. Last thing on this slide, I'm a human resource management expert, and human resource management, recruiting, selection, work analysis, performance management, training, compensation, health and safety. Those are sort of the core functions of human resource management. And what we do is that HR influences behaviors. So oftentimes the symptoms of a bad human resource management system are that we see behaviors that we don't want to see. So that's a flag that maybe our HR systems are not operating properly. So the solution to change the behavior is to modify the human resource management practice. So HR and behaviors have a reciprocal relationship. They influence each other. And so as we go out through this semester, you're going to see times where I talk very specifically about what it means inside of an organization when human resources does something or a specific practice changes a behavior. And that's, again, this kind of interdependency between human resource management and the behaviors that we're going to talk about throughout this class in terms of making you a better manager. So there are two articles that I've linked to earlier in this presentation, and you'll be able to link to those, and you'll see again some discussion threads. The first I want to talk about is evidence-based management. This is a classic article by Jeff Pfeffer and Bob Sutton, Harvard Business Review. And those of you working in certain fields, fields like healthcare especially, have adopted very heavy evidence-based management cultures and practices. And you'd think that every organization, regardless of its place in the economy, regardless of its industry, would be engaging in evidence-based management. All too often, though, we find that that's not what's happening. But what Pfeffer and Sutton talk about is kind of interesting, because what they say is there is evidence, there are data out there that help us understand why people behave the way that they behave inside of an organization. And oftentimes that evidence, those data are ignored. Why is that? And some of the examples they use are actually from the healthcare industry. Imagine going to a doctor with basic symptoms that could be symptomatic of multiple types of illnesses, from a common cold all the way through something way more serious. And imagine if you went in and just gave two very basic symptoms, and the doctor gave you the most extreme diagnosis off of just two. Let's say you have a fever and you're feeling nauseous. Fever and nausea can be symptomatic of dozens of different types of ailments. And imagine going into a doctor and saying, those are my two symptoms. And the doctor gives you an extreme diagnosis. What would you do if that happened? Well, likely you'd say you want to go and get a second opinion. So it's interesting that inside of organizations, we spend a lot of time operating like those doctors, giving people diagnoses off of very limited evidence. And so some of this gets to what sources of information do you trust? We're in a current political and global environment where there's a lot of information out there and we don't really know what information to trust. So it's important for us to develop sources of information that we think are reliable, whether it's a specific person, whether it's a specific, channel or a specific journal that you might read or a magazine. But we need to start developing trust. We need to find evidence out there that we trust. And one of the questions you'll probably ask, though, is, well, is there such thing as objective evidence? And that's a good question. And in my world, people will say, well, the only objective evidence is, company financial performance. But if any of you out there work in finance or work in accounting or have a good understanding of those fields, you'll find all the time that a company will release an earnings report and then revise it the next quarter. Because there's a lot of error even in company financial statements. So employee performance, are there objective measures of employee performance? And some people might say, well, maybe it's the number of pieces you produce. But even then, there's error. So one of the challenges we have in any business field is that we have very, very limited, truly objective evidence. And what that means is we operate in a world of a lot of less objective evidence. And so your goal as an evidence-based manager is to try to collect as much information about a topic from as many reliable sources that you can find before you make a decision. And that can be a challenge. Sometimes there's a lot of time constraints or there's pressure to make decisions. But I will tell you, the more information you have, the less subjective information you have, and the more of it you have, the better your decision making is. Now, again, I talked about your gut instinct. What is your gut instinct? What is it based on? Is it based on your knowledge? Is it based on your past experiences? Is it based on something you read or something you heard? It's probably a combination of all of those things. But is your gut instinct biased? Is your gut instinct objective? Obviously, it's not. Obviously, we all have our own biases. And obviously, we operate in a world of imperfect and asymmetrical information. So our gut instincts, simply relying on your gut instinct about how you feel about something, may lead you into making lots of mistakes. And so throughout this course, we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking again about evidence and what kind of evidence do we have and how reliable is that evidence and how do we interpret that evidence and how do we make decisions based on that evidence. Because ultimately, we want to develop good habits around being effective managers. And sometimes relying on your gut instinct is not the best way to go. Another thing I want you all to think about is, what do we mean by prevailing wisdom? You'll hear this a lot. You'll spend time inside of, watching cable TV or reading, magazines or reading websites, and they'll talk about prevailing wisdom. What is prevailing wisdom? Is it always right? 20 years ago, the prevailing wisdom around the internet was that you needed brick and mortar stores in order to be a successful company. 20 years ago, no one thought Amazon would be the economic behemoth that it is. So the prevailing wisdom 20 years ago was you need a website to support your in-store sales. And now we know the prevailing wisdom now is you can get anything you want off of Amazon or off of eBay or off of another internet retailer. So again, prevailing wisdom is subject to change. And that change is often brought about because there's new evidence. So I want you all to think about the prevailing wisdom. When someone says prevailing wisdom, what do they mean? Now, because we're talking about evidence and we're going to talk about statistics, there's this, again, classic Mark Twain quote, lies, damn lies, and statistics. And oftentimes you hear people say that when they simply disagree with the evidence. So someone might bring up, a piece of economic data or an employee survey or a customer survey or some piece of data. And another person might say, lies, damn lies, and statistics. And what they mean is that information is unreliable. When I hear people say lies, damn lies, and statistics, I then tend to ask, okay, well, what is your evidence? If you think my evidence is unreliable and not good, well, then what's yours? And let's have a conversation about that. And oftentimes, when you ask that question, what you end up finding out is that the person, again, facts are stubborn things. What you end up finding out is the person simply doesn't like the fact that you've raised. And so they go around it by saying, anyone can use statistics to tell any story. And again, what I would tell you all to ask is, okay, well, then what's your evidence? What's your data? And let's see, if your data is more reliable than the data I have, and let's have a conversation around that. So be wary of that. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts in the discussion section about that. Last thing I want to talk about before we end this video and this recording for you. The second article I asked you guys to read is about people businesses. And sometimes we don't like to quantify people. And in fact, finance and accounting people have a difficult time on a financial statement pinpointing exactly, where would you quantify people? Yes, you see headcounts. And yes, you see employee costs. But you don't see on a financial the cost of turnover. You don't see the lost opportunity costs of not having hired the right person. When you hire someone who's not doing as good of a job as someone else, you've got lost opportunity costs. So some people, especially in my field of human resources, they actually get kind of uncomfortable when you start quantifying people. And the article I'm asking you guys to read actually gives you kind of an easier way to kind of put some data around people, to put some numbers around people, so you can calculate performance differently, or you can calculate the cost of your people differently. And you might not be so comfortable. Accounting and finance people are very comfortable having the conversation, but they also realize how difficult it is to actually develop good metrics around quantifying your people. But I want you all to start thinking about, how good am I as a manager at speaking in a financial or accounting framework? And because speaking financially is important. If you want to make a persuasive argument to your boss about why you need to invest a certain amount of budget into a new practice or a new initiative, well, your boss is going to want to know, well, what's the return? What's the payoff? And so learning to make these arguments, speaking in financial terms, is really, really important. And whether you're talking about people or not, the people running the budget, they're numbers folks, they're accounting and finance folks, the CEO, the chief financial officer. These are the people that can free up resources around your organization to invest in people. But if you as a manager cannot speak financially about people, then it's going to be hard to get the budget. Now, some people might ask, well, in nonprofits, can you really do that? Obviously you can, and using this article as a baseline might actually help you give you a way to have those conversations, even if you're working in a not-for-profit. Because even at a not-for-profit, they've got limited budget. There are no open-ended budgets. And so if you want to try something new, if you think the company or the organization needs to do something different or try something new, you have to be able to make a financial argument. It's part of being an effective manager. So that's this video. And I'm going to post this for you, and you all will be able to access it. And we will rejoin next class. There'll be another video posted for you, again, on individual differences and emotion. If you have any questions, make sure you drop me an email. I'm happy to meet you guys. I'm looking forward to having a great semester with you.